1982, the British fleet sailed for the Falklands, but a lot of people said there wouldn't be a shooting war. They were wrong. The pro football players struck, and a lot of people said the season was over. They were wrong. Tonight, we'll look at some 1982 predictions that went awry. And we'll look ahead to 1983 with some predictions for the new year from columnists Evans and Novak, and from that most colorful of odds makers, Jimmy the Greek.
This is ABC News Nightline. Substituting for Ted Koppel and reporting from Washington, Sam Donaldson.
Good evening. Everyone wants to know what lies ahead, and those who predict the future are much sought after. Never mind that their predictions are often wrong. If a soothsayer or psychic or astrologer gets one thing right, his reputation is made. So tonight we're going to look ahead and give three knowledgeable experts a chance to get some things right for 1983. But before we do, let's take a short refresher course on how difficult it is to see ahead. We'll review some of the things said in 1982 right here on Nightline by well-informed people who were giving their honest views of the future, but who, as we see, turned out to be wrong. A British fleet set sail for the Falkland Islands in a possible war with Argentina.
If we are forced to defend ourselves, we will do so. But I still believe that there is room for a peaceful settlement of this dispute.
I don't believe that either the government in Argentina or the government in the United Kingdom wants to go to war over this.
Today, for the first time, the British public saw film of their fleet at war and some of the casualties that war has produced.
What about this one?
The war in Lebanon. Our focus tonight, increasing concern both inside and outside Israel over Israeli goals in the war.
The Israeli army will not only withdraw to a line 40 kilometers north of its border. The Israeli army will withdraw to 0 kilometers.
Here in Beirut, the Lebanese and Israeli governments sat down to try and chart their future relationship. More pressing, from the Lebanese point of view, they've begun to negotiate when and on what conditions Israel will end its occupation.
How long will U.S. Marines stay in Lebanon?
Been saying that they will remain there until all foreign forces are withdrawn.
Yes, because I think that's going to come rapidly.
Not exactly Bob Hope at Christmas time, but the U.S. Navy task force anchored off Beirut has been trying to make the best of this Christmas away from home.
I will not be a candidate for the presidency of the United States in 1984.
With Senator Kennedy out of the '84 presidential race, there was an obvious question to be answered, and it was asked at Kennedy's news conference today.
Mary?
Senator, who among the candidates would you say is now the front runner for your constituency?
Well, Mary, you know the answer to that as well as I do. And I'm going to wait till tomorrow to read about it in your column.
Go ahead, answer your own question. You've written your column.
I can't. I let the senator down and all the people he misled on television and by every other means of communication. I just don't know.
I'll go ahead. Name a few names. Like who?
Well, I think obviously Senator Glenn is one of the candidates.
The short version is that I don't know. I run through the various possibilities. Mondale would seem a very likely heir apparent.
Senator Cranston is going to.
You hear people talking about Mo Udall, for instance.
Senator Hart is another.
It was the biggest rally that Wall Street has ever seen in one day. It was based on predictions that interest rates will continue to go down. But those predictions were based on the belief that the economy is in worse shape than anyone had expected. You're saying the market is going down. How far down is it going by the end of this year?
Again, I say, and we never deviate, We never hedge. I said the probability is you will see between 550 and 650 in the Dow sometime between September 1982 and January 1983.
Okay.
And as Nixon said, trust me.
In trouble, gets out of it. A couple of men were wide open. Tony Hill on the right, but he finds Cosby, touchdown.
They played this weekend, and they played again tonight. But the threat of a strike in the National Football League is still very much alive.
We've never been able to pull off a successful strike, but this time the players are just solidly united in the fact that we're going to get the best collective bargaining agreement that we can possibly get.
It would be stupid for football to have a strike. You're playing 16 ball games. It isn't like baseball where if you lose 20 or 30 games or 40 games to a strike, you can make them up. You can't do that in football. The game is, I think, the greatest professional team sport we have. To have a strike would be a tragedy. It doesn't have to happen.
The players' strike is ending its first day with no progress whatsoever. Stone Phillips has more.
NFL practice fields across the country were deserted today, and except for those players who came in to pack up their belongings, the clubhouses were empty as well.
After 57 acrimonious days of bickering, name-calling, and finally doubt about the future of the entire season, the NFL players and owners reached a tentative agreement on a new contract this afternoon after 11 hours of negotiations in New York.
I suspect that, although they won't say it, that it has to be considered a victory for the owners.
To tell you the truth, I think it's too far in the season to even begin a halfway decent football season. You know, again, it's gotten to a point where I think a lot of the people don't even care.
I care, yeah. It makes a difference, yeah.
Why?
I'm looking forward to the World Series.
Well, so much for some predictions for 1982 made on Nightline. Coming up, some predictions for 1983. We'll hear from Jimmy the Greek and from Washington columnists Roland Evans and Robert Novak.
I didn't know I was going to be working for the rest of my life as a woman.
Now everyone knows that Dustin Hoffman is Tootsie, and Tootsie is terrific. This year's miracle is Tootsie, Time Magazine. Tootsie is the best thing that's happened at this year's end, New York Times. Tootsie will make you very happy, Newsweek. It's the comedy of the year, Gene Siskel.
I've never wanted a woman this much.
Dustin Hoffman is Tootsie, rated PG. Now playing at a theater near you.
With some contests, you have to wait so long to find out if you won, you wonder whether anyone even won at all. Well, at Publishers Clearinghouse, we want you to know. And on March 15th, we're going to announce it on TV. Who won a dream house? Who won a luxury car? Who won our incredible super prize?
And our $250,000 winner is...
So watch your mail for the new Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes and enter. We want to make you a winner.
Obviously, it's way off. You want to lose 3,000 ugly pounds? Bring your old car to your nearest Datsun dealer for our biggest year-end celebration ever. We're trimming prices on Datsun's 4200 SX and the all-new Pulsar NX. We're stretching your options on the legendary 280ZX and the luxurious Maxima. Now's the time to get the Datsun you've always wanted. We're beating the competition by leaps and bounds.
Now, quiet. I know there are big ones in here.
Excuse me, but have you ever given to your United Way?
Yeah.
Ever wonder who decides where the money goes?
Yeah.
Well, it's your friends and neighbors who volunteer their time to make the tough decisions of where the money's needed most in your hometown. It's people just like you. That's who decides. Now more than ever, thanks to you, it works for all of us. The United Way.
What are Americans doing to become physically fit? You'd be surprised.
Plus, the man big companies pay a fortune to tell them what will happen next.
You'll have the last word tonight after Nightline.
Joining us now from our Washington studios are Roland Evans and Robert Novak, who have been writing as a team for nearly 20 years and whose political column now appears in more than 200 newspapers. In recent times, they've been publishing their own sets of predictions for each new year. And while they claim no gift of prophecy, they do claim an accuracy rate of 80%. Gentlemen, before we get to your predictions for 1983, let's establish how you make them. Rolly Evans, you don't look in a crystal ball. How do you set about making a prediction for a new year?
Well, I don't believe, first, Sam, in what Dostoevsky has told us. Men reject their prophets and slay them. I don't think we're going to be called to order in that sense, so I feel rather relaxed about it. We try to take a look at history, take a look at contemporary political and foreign policy and military and sociological events, see the temper of the times, particularly in Congress, in an administration, in a White House, try to take a sample of a pulse around the country in union labor, blue collar, Wall Street, etc. Go to the farmlands, and then attempt to extrapolate from these soundings what seems to be going on in people's minds, how the power balance is lining up, what the major problems are going to be, and what the probable or possible result of the effort to solve those problems is. And then we make a guess.
Okay, you make a guess.
We make a stab at it.
Bob Novak, you know, a person can be a prophet everywhere except in his own country. Do you find that when you make predictions here in Washington, a lot of your peers sort of laugh at you or look down on you?
Indeed. In fact, they remember the ones that are wrong and forget the ones that are correct, Sam.
All right, let's start right out, Bob Novak. What's your prediction on the economy for 1983?
I think it's going to be a recovery that is not only good, but tends to be spectacular toward the second half of the year, surprising President Reagan's own economic forecast.
Well, now you go way out on a limb when you say spectacular.
Yes.
Even those who talk about a recovery say sluggish and mild and maybe just a little bit. Why do you think spectacular?
I think that the economists are always wrong because as the generals fought the last war, the economists are predicting on the basis of last year's results. I think that this recovery is overdue, and now that the Federal Reserve Board is not squeezing the economy to death, I think it's going to happen.
Now, Rolly Evans, you get the tough one on this one. It's inevitable that I remind you that last year you predicted in 1982 there would be a recovery. So did I, but what's your reason for what happened to us?
I think one thing that the Fed was much too tough on interest rates, much too tough on credit restraints, on the money supply. They were not going after the problems in the economy in the right way. As Bob has just indicated, that seems to have changed. Interest rates stayed very, very high for much too long, and with high interest rates, Sam, it's I think history shows us, economic history, that with high interest rates, it is very hard to make a dent in a recession because the businesses don't get moving.
Okay, what's going to happen between President Reagan and Congress in '83?
I think it's going to be a more difficult year for the president unless he decides to surrender on every issue, and there are signs that he is beginning to think in surrender terms. Tax legislation, a big topic in the White House, the Treasury Department today, that he may surrender on taxes. But Sam, with all those new Democrats, 57 new Democrats, and with the balance of power going to more to the liberal Democrats, it's going to be much harder for Reagan to assert his will and have an impact in Congress. So I see war.
War between Reagan and Congress.
Yes,
Mr. Bob Novak, what about within the president's own White House staff and in his own cabinet? Big changes or not?
Not very big. I think you're going to find continued chaos in the White House with a four-headed monster. I think, contrary to a lot of opinions, James Baker will get stronger through the year rather than weaker. I think the biggest change in Washington is going to be that the president will not name Paul Volcker to another term as chairman of the Federal Reserve Board, and that is important since I think Volcker, instead of some computer, should have been man of the year last year.
Any guesses as to who the president will name?
No, I think that is one I don't, my crystal ball is foggy on that one.
Okay, Rolly Evans, take a crack at whether Ronald Reagan will run for a second term.
I think he's going to run, Sam. I know that many of my colleagues, whom I respect, disagree with me. I would be amazed if he didn't run. I look back in history for a man who entered the White House as an elected president when he first crossed the threshold there, and that rules out Truman, it rules out Lyndon Johnson, it rules out Theodore Roosevelt, rules out Calvin Coolidge. The only man that I can think of, or the most recent, who did not run for a second term, is way back in the 1840s, and I can't think of his name. I've lost his name for a second. I'll think of it in just a second, Sam, and come back with you. But that's 140 years ago. And I think James Polk, the name has come to me, was unique. And I don't think Ronald Reagan is a James Polk.
Okay, very quickly, Bob Novak, I know you agree with that. Do you and Rowley ever disagree on a prediction?
We did a number of years ago, but I convinced him he was wrong. One thing I have to tell you, Sam, I almost forgot. I'm going to go out on a limb and say David Stockman will not last out the year, that he will finally leave by the spring of 1983.
Well, Bob, I wasn't going to bring it up, but you've already gone out on a limb in print and said that Drew Lewis, the Secretary of Transportation, would probably replace David Stockman. If he didn't replace him, he'd replace Raymond Donovan. And now, after that was said in print, we see that Drew Lewis has resigned to go into private industry.
You can't win them all, Sam.
No, you can't, so I won't beat you over the head too much. But just stay tuned. We'll be right back. And when we return, one of the country's best-known and most listened-to prognosticators will join our discussion, Jimmy the Greek.
And now, a sizzling message from Burger King.
In this commercial, Burger King promises not to say anything to make you hungry. Not a single delicious word. We just had to tell you one simple thing. In a coast-to-coast survey, nearly 2 out of 3 people chose broiling over frying. Burger King broils, McDonald's or Wendy's fry. That's it, the whole commercial. And not once did we say, aren't you hungry for Burger King now?
He's versatile, daring, athletic, and what every kid wants for Christmas.
It doesn't even need batteries.
The toy. He turned their house into a home,
I love you, Jack.
and their home into a battlefield. Richard Pryor, Jackie Gleason, The Toy, rated PG. Now playing at a theater near you.
Do you appreciate fine diamond jewelry? As part of a national marketing test being conducted by Diamond Commodities Unlimited, we will send every person who responds to this commercial a genuine diamond ring for $19.95. A genuine 1-point, 17-facet fiery diamond centered in a dainty 14-karat gold electroplated heart, perfect as a gift or for yourself. Limit 1 ring per order. Once testing stops in this area, no further orders will be accepted and this offer will be withdrawn, so act quickly. Your genuine diamond ring will be shipped direct from our corporate vault with a certificate of authenticity. If you're not 100% satisfied, return it within 10 days, and we will refund the purchase price, no questions asked. When ordering your genuine diamond ring, please give your ring size. Orders are shipped COD or charge it to your Visa or MasterCard.
Call free 800-228-3300. That's 800-228-3300.
I'm David Hartman. Tomorrow, Arthur Miller, our law expert on the major legal decisions of 1982, and graduating college seniors on their job prospects on Good Morning America.
Joining us now from our New York studios is Jimmy the Greek Snyder, a professional odds maker who's seen on CBS Sports and whose special talents have made him a millionaire at the age of 29. He put his money on Truman when Dewey was favored to win the presidency. Jimmy the Greek is best known for his sports predictions, but he's also, as you hear, interested in politics. Greek, let's start on that note. You called the Reagan landslide right in 1980. What about 1984? Will the president run again?
Definitely he will run again. And one more thing, too, Sam. He will take the good soldier Bush right with him.
Well, all right, tell us why, because I know a lot of people, including reporters who've covered Ronald Reagan for 17 years, who think that he'll just hang it up and go back to the ranch.
No, he just can't hang it up because he hasn't finished what he has started. And he's doing what I think is a good job. He's beat inflation. He's knocked down interest rates. And, of course, I know he's reduced the increase in government spending. Of course, we do know that there are people unemployed at the moment. But that's going to change. And Detroit's going to change that. And this is where the economy is going to get better. Detroit has retooled and come on strong with their new automobiles, which will make the steel industry better, and consequently it's going to help the unemployment situation, which will definitely make Reagan a candidate and a winner over Mondale, Glenn, Hart, Hollings, let's see, Brown of Kentucky. I would have to say this. that the nominees for the Democratic Party will be Glenn and Hart.
In that order?
In that order.
Well, it's Greek the Pollyanna. I mean, you see everything coming up roses. Let's look at the unemployment rate. It's 10.8%, Greek, and probably it'll go over 11% before it starts coming down and inching down. Why do you think that it's going to be so good for Ronald Reagan that he's a shoo-in for re-election?
Well, not a shoo-in, but he's definitely the favorite. Like an 8-to-5 shot, I would say at this moment. Because I'm depending on Detroit and the automobile industry to make a big comeback in 83 and 84, which definitely, of course, brings rubber back, wood back, and steel back.
Okay, what do you know that we don't know that lends you the belief that Detroit's going to make a comeback?
In the last month and a half, Sam, the leasing situation in the automobile industry has been tremendous. Plus, people are buying automobiles again because of the interest rates coming down. And the cars are being made in Detroit today are a little bit better than what they used to be.
Okay, so things go along all right. The economy improves. The president is not a shoo-in, but you think he'll beat John Glenn. John Glenn is an authentic American hero. He was the first man in space for the United States to orbit the Earth. So why do you think Glenn's going to be defeated?
Well, it's not the... I'll tell you one good reason. I don't think he makes good speeches, but that's beside the point. It's going to be a tough nomination fight between him and Mondale now. I mean, don't discard Senator or former Vice President Mondale. It's going to be tough, but I think with Hart joining him, they will probably win it out.
Okay, what about the president's White House staff? We've just heard Evans and Novak tell us they don't think there are going to be any major changes. Do you agree?
I agree to that. I don't think there'll be any major changes in the four biggies, in the four big guys.
So it's still going to be Baker and Deaver and Meese and Clark.
And William Clark, right.
And all of them will get along. We hear lots of stories about how they're in disagreement. They won't talk to each other. They've discontinued their morning breakfasts. What's that? That's all just speculation?
I think it is total speculation. My people in Washington tell me that they're getting along swell.
Okay, Greek, let's turn to sports. I know because of your contract with CBS Sports, we can't talk about pro football, but we can talk about college football. Who do you like in 83?
In 83, you mean coming up New Year's Day?
That's right.
I would have to say that I would go along with Penn State over Georgia. I like UCLA over Michigan. And in the Cotton Bowl, I think SMU will beat Pitt.
Okay, and then going through to the next fall season, can you get some feel about who's going to be hot among the college schools?
I'll tell you, in basketball in the NCAA, there's no question in my mind that Virginia, of course, and Kentucky are the favorites. But by that time, Georgetown will be a better ball club and surprise everybody in the NCAA tournament.
All right, while we're on basketball, how about the NBA championship?
The Lakers will win it. They'll beat Philadelphia.
No problem there, huh?
Yeah, well, there's a problem.
What is it?
Philadelphia's pretty good, too.
All right, let's see if Evans and Novak know anything about sports. Rolly and Bob, you've been listening to the Greek. Do you have any disagreement with his picks for New Year's Day or with the fact that he thinks the Lakers will win the championship?
I'm not going to get into basketball. That's my partner's province. I think he knows as much as Jimmy does about basketball. But I would like to ask Jimmy, I wish he'd mentioned the Caps. We have a hockey team down here in Washington that's doing some remarkable things. Any chance of the Caps winning the whole shooting match, Jimmy?
I don't think so.
Are you impressed with them?
Pardon?
Are you impressed with what the Caps?
Yes, they're doing quite well, but I don't follow hockey very much. I'm sorry.
I think this is just a ploy to get Bob Novak off the hook.
Well, I'll give you.
Novak is a great prognosticator on basketball. I know. I've met him before.
I see a setup when I see one. Go ahead, Bob.
I'll have to disagree with the Greek. I think with Moses Malone, the 76ers are finally going to win that basketball championship. And I think, as boring as they are, Kentucky's going to win the NCAA.
Okay, Bob, let's go to Detroit now. The Greek has told us that he sees a renaissance there, that Detroit makes a comeback. Do you see that?
I think a little comeback. I'm not quite as enthusiastic about them. I think that they're going to be trailing the rest of the economy, but I think that you're going to find other sectors of the economy, including the industrial sectors, moving very fast, particularly in the latter part of 83 and the early part of 84.
All right, let's move ahead. Bob, real quickly, what do you see for the stock market in 1983? Does it continue to go up? Did we have a leveling off? Or, as Joe Granville erroneously predicted for the end of 82, do we have a bust?
I think you're going to have a bull market through much of the year, and that's a leading indicator of economic gains, and I think it's usually a pretty accurate indicator of good economic times ahead.
Jimmy the Greek, what do you think about the stock market? Shall we put our money there or not?
Well, I can tell you one thing. I have lost everything I possibly have made in the market. No, I'm only joking about that. I'm very, very, very much impressed with the market the way it is now, and every quarter I own is in it.
Okay, Rolly Evans, let's move to the Middle East. Always a hot spot and always a trouble spot. What does 1983 hold? Some movement toward a general peace or maybe a slide toward another war?
I think that the major movement is going to be a split between the United States and Israel, Sam. I think that the chances of a peace on the West Bank are very, very small because the Israelis don't see it the way we do, and I don't think there is going to be the will in the White House to really force that to a good conclusion.
Rolly, very quickly now, we've talked about Senator Kennedy earlier in this broadcast. Do you think he'll ever run for the presidency? If so, do you think he'll win?
Oh, I think he might very well run again, but I have a strong feeling, Sam, that Teddy Kennedy will not be elected president. I think he carries too heavy a burden from all these things that everybody knows, and I think he's going to be a great senator.
Jimmy the Greek, you have the last word. What about Ted Kennedy? Is he through in presidential politics or not?
No, sir. No, sir. I'm going to give you a prediction. It's far-fetched. 1988. Senator Laxalt will be the Republican nominee, and Kennedy will be the Democratic nominee.
And who'll win?
Laxalt.
Good. Thank you all. Thank you all for being on our broadcast tonight. And we'll check you right up to 1988. And I'll be back in just a moment.
With some contests, you have to wait so long to find out if you won, you wonder whether anyone even won at all. Well, at Publishers Clearinghouse, we want you to know. And on March 15th, we're going to announce it on TV. Who won a dream house? Who won a luxury car? Who won our incredible super prize?
And our $250,000 winner is...
So watch your mail for the new Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes and enter. We want to make you a winner.
A child's joy, a mother's love, a friend's devotion. In this season of peace, share the magic with your family. Steven Spielberg's E.T., the Extraterrestrial, from Universal Pictures, rated PG. Now playing at a theater near you. Check local newspapers for details.
Now, big sale savings during Sears Big Red Tag Sale. Hundreds of items reduced. Save $20 to $200 on selected Kenmore appliances and home entertainment products, from washers and vacuums to video recorders. Save 10 to 50% on paints and selected home improvement needs, from garage door openers to water heaters. Save 10 to 50% on all Sears furniture, bedding, lamps, and selected carpeting. For Big Red Tag savings through Friday, you can count on Sears.
Patty cake, baker's man. Baking's easier when you start with Pam.
It's time for Cooking with Pam.
Bake with no-stick Pam, and you don't need to grease and flour. Cake won't stick. Cookies slide off. And since low-calorie Pam adds no flour, you can roast, fry, even broil. No-stick Pam takes the cake and does a whole lot more.
Start with Pam. Your recipes turn out right.
Tomorrow on World News Tonight, Carol Simpson will report on what's being done to correct packaging problems with over-the-counter drugs in the wake of the Chicago Tylenol deaths. Coming up next on The Last Word, Greg Jackson will continue our look into the future with John Naisbitt, a social trends forecaster. And Phil Donahue will examine various forms of exercise and try to determine which are really beneficial. Nightline won't be seen tomorrow night because of special New Year's Eve programming. But I predict that Ted Koppel will return to his regular post here on Monday. That's our report for tonight. For Nightline, this is Sam Donaldson.
This has been ABC News Nightline. If you would like to obtain a transcript of tonight's broadcast, send $2 to Nightline, Box 234, Ansonia Station, New York, New York, 10023. Nightline has been a presentation of ABC News.
Friday. No one escapes the terror of the Ivory Eight.